Hi, I'm Fazia Costi. I'm the owner of 54 Media Group. It is my honor to present to you the Focus on Success Summit 2024. We have an amazing lineup for you, and we hope that you enjoy each and every one of our presentations. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, and welcome to Executive Vision Imagery, creating the vision for your future. I am your host, Maria Maldonado Smith, and this presentation is a guide to seeing your dreams come to fruition with me. Today, we are going to discuss topics like how to create the vision for your life, for your team, personally and professionally. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks and resources that I use when I deliver this presentation to corporate organizations, small businesses, and individuals across the globe. Let's get started. Okay. First, just a little bit about me. I'm a people and leadership development firm. I use neuroscience and goal setting information, habit information, combined with the power and transformative power of vision imagery in order to execute my process and program. That is proprietary. It cultivates team cohesion, team building. It increases employee engagement. It keeps employees aligned, focused, and determined on their efforts to achieving their goals, both personally and professionally. So, why vision imagery? 80 to 90% of us are visual learners. When we talk through this today, we're going to discuss the benefits of what a vision board can do, but really the components of this all were leading up to why it's important. So I will sell you and coach you on how this is so vital, a process in your life and something that you need to be implementing and incorporating on a daily basis, because 80 to 90% of us are visual learners. However, what percentage of Americans write down their goals? In a workshop setting, this would be something that is not rhetorical, but for today, think about a number in your mind and write down that number, write down what you think what that percentage is. If you guess less than 3%, then you are correct. It's actually 2.8% of Americans write their goals down. So less than 3% of us take the time to actually write our goals down. Now, here is an interesting caveat to this. A lot of people assume that they write their goals down. I work with people all the time who say, well, I write things down all the time. Yes, they write things down. They're typically writing to-do lists or little items here and there that they think that are going to build up to a larger benefit. However, they're not taking time to specifically work on the goals that they are driving or that they're wanting to achieve. We might be fragmenting this off in to-do lists that are a mile long, and I'll discuss that a little bit later on why that is actually a negative practice and something that we should not be doing consistently. It's actually a bad habit to have. But less than 3% of us actually take the time to sit down and work on our goals. What's even more wild is that of the less than 3% of Americans that write down their goals, less than 1% of us are working on them daily. So my thoughts, my opinion on this is that this is really where we start to see the difference between like even that 1% of our world that makes up the largest percent of the financial population. When you think about the 1%ers, they're doing something right that the rest of us could learn and benefit from. And I do believe that a lot of this is grounded in that 1% of them working on them actively daily. And Warren Buffett actually talks about this in one of his books on how he was constantly working in his goals, tweaking them, redirecting, understanding how he could evolve, grow, and develop through this particular goal. He wasn't willing to abandon a goal either if it wasn't working out. And these are key components when we think about the infrastructure of how we develop goals. These are key components of why people will typically give up. All right. So through all of that information, what we understand is that we are 42% more likely to achieve our goals simply by writing them down. So think about that. Less than 3% of us actually take the time to write them down. And this comes from actually a combination of studies from TD Bank and then Dr. Gail Matthews of Dominican University. And my sources are cited below. But as you can see, in Dr. Gail Matthews' study, it was 33%. The TD Bank study, it was 42%. The general gist, though, is that just by simply writing our goals down, we have a higher probability of achieving them. So just that one simple task of taking the time to actually write them down. So how are we supposed to lead the meaningful lives, right? How are we supposed to understand our why? If we're showing up to work every single day, I work a lot in the corporate space. So as leaders, as executive leaders, as mid-level managers, as individual contributors, if we don't know why we're showing up every single day to do the job that we've been hired to do, well, then that's a big problem. I'm not going to be as engaged. I might not be someone that you could retain as an employee, because the next time I'm dangled a shiny little potential opportunities to go somewhere else, I'm going to do that because I don't understand why I'm showing up every day. As leaders, this is imperative that we help our team members understand this. This is part of the building blocks of building team cohesion and building that team dynamic where we all come together under a shared goal, a personal goal, a professional goal, kind of that do the dang thing. What are we going to do as a team? What are we doing collectively as individuals that we can help support each other? Because here's the really cool thing. Today, we're going to solve for this problem. We're going to set the foundation in our life as to why that vision imagery is the key to unlocking our why plus our how to do. And we're going to use science to back it up. All right, so I'd mentioned the study by Dr. Gail Matthews. It was a global study. However, she did isolate Americans in this study. So only 20% of people globally set goals for themselves. Still a lot bit better than Americans. But what she found was that people who write down their goals formulate those action commitments and they share their goals with friends. So they're just simply having a conversation with a friend who they feel is an accountability and support system for them. Their success rate increased to 76%. I will take those odds every day, especially when only 3% of Americans take the time to write down their goals and 1% are working on them actively daily. If I can be a part of that, and I know that my success rate is going to increase 76% simply by doing these 3 things and following this process, and I'm all in. Sign me up. And as leaders, as executives, as mid-level managers, as individual contributors, as individuals who are in control of our own lives, this is something that should resonate and speak to us. All right. Now, taking a look at 90% of studies done specifically focused on challenging goals led to much better results. Okay. Yet only 8% of people who set New Year's resolutions actually reach them. So 92% of people fail. 62% give up within the first month. Now, when I'm in a workshop and group setting, this is typically time when I ask the following questions. Why? Why do you think people give up? Why are those who write down their goals more successful? What are the factors that contribute to why some people who take the time to write out their goals and create New Year's resolutions, although I am vehemently against them, and I'll explain why are they more successful? What is it about them that's different from the 97% of the rest of us that don't take the time to write our goals down? And there are a myriad of responses that are most likely 100% correct. Everything from we make the goal too broad, we don't allow enough time for us to actually implement a particular habit. We try to do way too much at one time and hope to see success instantly. So it's that instant gratification of a kind of a generational mindset that we have grown to believe that if we set a goal, we should be able to achieve it in X amount of time. We're not realizing that these things do take time. There are a lot of variables. We have an all or nothing mindset. So there were a list of variables that were cited throughout these 99 studies that composed the 90% of them that led to these results. So why I'm vehemently against New Year's resolutions is because, one, I do not think that January 1st has to be the day that we decide to make a change in our life or set a goal. We can decide today. You can decide right now that this is a goal that you want to implement or that you want to make a change in your life. There is no set rule or code that says that January 1st has to be that day. If that's what you choose and that's what works for you because it's a mindset shift into a new year, then absolutely go for it. I think the other component of this is that it's because we make so many goals. We head into a new year and we think, I have to change everything. New year, new me, right? Wrong. It's a new year, but you're probably the same you starting out day one. You don't instantly change just because you get a wild hair to make a difference. What the change happens when you add consistent practices over time. We'll talk about my post-it note method here in a little bit and why and how I feel that a post-it note can change your life, because that's in the doing and that's in the how. But first, we have to discover kind of those and uncover those reasons why. So I'm curious to see if you came up with anything different. All right. So now I always take a pause in my workshops to talk about a little neuroscience moment. Writing things down. I'm a huge proponent. While the digital age has increased and it is very prevalent in our day-to-day lives, there is still something so empowering about taking pen or pencil to paper and writing things down, because we're doing two things, and on two different levels, we are activating parts of our brain. So we're creating external storage, which is the process, the proprietary process that I created, Executive Vision Imagery. That's what this does. It creates that external storage. When you're putting your vision board somewhere where you can see it daily, you are storing all of those images and what you want to see out in the universe. And it is incredibly impactful and empowering. You're also doing something called encoding, and it's a biological process by which the things we perceive travel to our brain's hippocampus, where they are analyzed. From there, really cool, decisions are made about what gets stored in our long-term memory and in turn what gets discarded. So think about this. You're driving along and you see certain road signs, you see certain things, you realize, okay, I need to know that because that's my next right turn, but I don't need to know that there's a Shell gas station on the corner of this, right? So we discard that information, but we keep the fact that we need to turn on Commercial Boulevard. Writing improves this encoding process as well. In other words, when you write it down, it has a much greater chance of being remembered. So by writing things down, by taking that pen and putting it to paper, you are now encoding it and creating external storage, both of which are vital in the process of executive vision imagery. And when you think about your goals, this is why writing them down daily cements them into your brain and creates a neural pathway for your mind and your brain to continue to focus on the things that are important to you. So I always make the case for vision imagery because I know that I have a lot of skeptics out there who think, those vision boards, they're just very woo. But here's the thing, they work. 82% of small business owners who used a vision board reported half of their goals were accomplished. And it is in fact rooted in neuroscience. Like I said, that's why I share my neuroscience moments with team members, with executives, with mid-level managers, individual contributors, whomever, business owners, entrepreneurs, you name it. This works. Small business folks use it. It is rooted in neuroscience, and it activates a part of our brain called the reticular activating system. This essentially becomes a funnel for information of what we want to see in our life. So I share this with my participants because I want to reiterate how much visualization is important and impactful in our life. 3.2 billion images are uploaded online every single day. We'll say that again, 3.2 billion images are uploaded online every single day. 720,000 hours of video content, just like what we are creating right now, is uploaded every single day. Let that sit with you for just a second. That is a massive amount of visual images that we have access to. If you are the average social media user, you are seeing anywhere, with one account, you are seeing anywhere from 10 to 100 images a day. Now, how am I supposed to activate the piece of my brain that is supposed to help me create a filter and funnel system for the things that I want to see in my life when I am inundated with images that have nothing to do with the goals that I'm wanting to achieve? This is why it is so important. I have often said to my children, I can't help you unsee certain things. So this is why I have to guard and protect your heart. This is the same thing. When we come to our mind is so powerful, but it's also our biggest asset that we have to protect. And so when we think about the images that we're putting into our brain, that we're accepting every single day by mindlessly scrolling, and I'm not saying that I am not guilty of that because I fall victim to it just like everyone else. But when we spend time focusing on the things that are central and key to the goals that we want to accomplish and achieve, we propel ourselves forward in so many ways, and our brain goes to work to rewire itself to help us do the things that we want it to do. We start to see the images on our board out in the universe, and it guides us and continues us forward on this path of achieving our goals. All right, ever been car shopping? I spent a lot of time in the automotive industry, and this is something that I always share with my participants. So there's two things we're going to discuss here really quickly: car shopping and your favorite movie. I'll hop back to car shopping. This really boils down to what's called the red car theory, and it is that you may never have seen the car that you end up purchasing when you go car shopping. Some people have pleasant experiences, non-pleasant experiences. Like I said, I spent a lot of time in automotive, and six of one, half dozen of another. We each have our own experience. But this theory really has less to do about the actual buying of cars and more of how we start to see the car that we just purchased or leased on the road. So the red Range Rover, for example, you decide that that's the car that you want to buy. That's the one for you. But you'd never really noticed Range Rovers until you saw this sleek, beautiful automobile on the lot, and you decided to give it a test drive. Now, all of a sudden, guess what? What is happening? You drive off the lot. What do you notice? Except for the sticker shock of the price and how expensive it was. You notice that there are Range Rovers everywhere now. Now, all of a sudden, it has entered your atmosphere, your sphere of knowledge, the realm in which you operate. Now you're more aware. You're more acutely aware of how many Range Rovers there are on the road. This is what is noted as the red car theory. The reason this plays so much into vision imagery and why a vision board is important is because that's exactly what you're doing when you create and curate the images that align with your personal and professional goals. You are telling yourself, these are the images that I want to now start seeing and I want to start noticing out in the world. Same thing with the favorite movie. This really is where that external storage comes into play, because we remember things that are very important to us. We create an external storage and pathway. When we see something multiple times, like a favorite movie, we start to remember our favorite quotes, our favorite lines, all of the different things that we value about that movie and what makes it our favorite. So these two things that we are creating they're a phenomenon called frequency illusion and frequency bias. We are really creating this illusion of, I only want to see these certain things in my life because these are the things that are going to draw me in. These are the things that I am drawn to. When I put images on a board that represent the goals that I'm working to achieve, I'm creating a bias around what it is I want to see in my life. And when I'm focusing on that for the first 3 to 5 minutes every single day, instead of scrolling through my phone, I am setting myself up for success to see those images out in the world. All right, so what do these folks have in common? Normally, I would give you a little bit of time to think about this or share with me your thoughts, but for this, I'm just going to go ahead and give you the answer. They all use vision imagery and vision boarding to guide and develop their path to success. All right, so I'll share my brief story about Michael Phelps. You can watch any YouTube video, listen to a podcast that he's been on, and he talks a lot about the power of visualization and vision imagery and how it aided his successful journey to becoming one of the most decorated or the most decorated Olympian of all time. He used visualization processes to help him in his most recent Olympic race, and it catapulted him to success. So when we think about how powerful this is, high performance athletes use visualization, artists who are about ready to perform. I am certain Taylor Swift and Beyonce and Ed Sheeran and Sam Smith and you name it, the Beatles, they all probably used visualization to see the success that they wanted to have, or see and visualize and create the moment that they wanted to experience when they were on stage. It goes far beyond just the costumes, the lights, the props, the dance moves, etc. It's actually seeing and walking yourself through that. And that's what Michael Phelps talks about. He discusses how imperative actually going through each stroke was and focusing on how many strokes it would take him, so that when he showed up to the race, he's on autopilot. He is just like putting his speakers on and he's focusing on the music at hand, and he lets his mind and body do the rest because he has trained so consistently for this. Now, how does that parlay to our goals professionally and personally? Because when we are implementing them in this same type of fashion, we can take from some of these high performance athletes and the attributes that have made them successful. We can absolutely replicate those in our day-to-day lives, personally and professionally, to be successful. It just takes practice and time. So knowing what we know, achieving our goals by creating the vision for our future becomes less about the act of going through the motions and more about the process of taking action, doing the work necessary. Just like I said, Michael Phelps, and I'm sure a myriad of other high performance athletes and musicians and actors and actresses have done and do consistently to get to where they want to go. Action over motivation. I am not waiting to be motivated. I am taking action daily, and that's how I'm going to get results. And that's really what the vision board helps you to achieve. So, are you ready? This is what I always say. This is where my music will play in a workshop, and we will get things pumped up and ready to go. Why a vision board? I get asked this all the time. Why vision imagery? This is not your average vision board. That's why, people. And because it works. But it is all about a process. And what we have just done is build the case for why this is so important, why you need to sit up and show up to listen to this conversation. So here's my method. This is my 5-step proprietary method, designed and developed over years of my life. I started this process when I was 8 years old. If you don't believe me, ask my mom. My word of the year is something I have done for a very long time. I have created and cultivated a word that is supposed to represent the kind of year that I want to have. When I work with participants in workshops, I always tell them, what do you want to be the anchor for your year? How do you want your year to be embodied? If you want to purchase the workbook that I have, it's on Amazon. It's called Creating a Vision Board. I use this in my corporate workshops as well. So normally I would give you about 3 minutes. So this, like I said, is in a setting. Pause your video. If it's something that you're interested in writing down and jotting down your word of the year, take a moment to think about the word that is going to anchor and center you throughout this year. It will also go in the middle of your board. All right, core values. Everyone, if you are in a corporate setting or if you're an entrepreneur and you've written out a business plan, if you were just a human being, you have probably at one point or another in your life been asked, what are your core values? What are the fundamental beliefs that you have about your life and the way that you want to live it? That's exactly what this is. Nothing needs to be more overcomplicated than that. What are the things that you hold dearly, that you honor and you make a commitment to, and you don't waver from that commitment, whether that's family, fitness, fun, whether that is honesty, communication, driving initiatives at work consistently by being a good leader who listens, who has compassion, who's understanding, etc. Go to work to do the work. So yet again, I would normally have you take 3 minutes to write down some of those core values. But pause your camera instead, or pause this presentation while you are in this, and take the time to do the work yourself. Writing out your mission, vision, and core value statement. The mission statement is incredibly powerful because this is consider this your purpose or your vision statement. This is something that is driving you in your life. This is like your slogan, your mantra. It doesn't need to be 3 pages. Actually, it should be about 3 to 4 sentences. But write this out, because this is really what helps bring to life everything that you're working to achieve. Now, as a caveat to this, I will say I'm going to share mine. So normally would give about 5 minutes, but I'm going to share my mission statement with you. And what I always tell participants is that this is something they're going to want to take time to step away from outside of the confines of the workshop. This isn't something you can just slap some sentences together and say, okay, I've got my mission statement. I've got my purpose statement. I know what I'm doing now. No. This is going to take time. This could take you a month to accomplish and achieve. And guess what? Our mission, our purpose, our vision, our why, those things are also ever changing at times. We can see, we work on a new project. We do land a new role. We get a promotion. We start a new business. now our vision for that changes. And so too does our mission. So too does our maybe our core values around what we're working to accomplish. That might change as well. So just keep that in mind when you think about your mission statement. This is like the purpose for what you are doing right now here in your life in this moment to get done what it is you want to achieve. All right. So why is any of this even important? And what can we do to advance and propel ourselves forward? Well, in a corporate setting, it's going to set you and your team and your company up for success. It increases profitability up to 21%. And let me tell you, US companies, they lose between $450 to $550 billion a year due to disengaged employees. And here's the other caveat is that 88% of employees actually want to be engaged. They want a meaningful environment where they feel valued. So when we're losing all of this money, it's because guess what? Our people want to be engaged. Your team members, your business partners, folks, individual contributors, you name it, on every single level and every aspect of work, of a work environment, 88% of employees want that meaningful environment. They want to know that they are valued. However, they're disengaged because we're not building them up in this way. It's the same thing. Like we ask our teachers, to help cultivate our children's minds and their love of learning, their love of wanting to show up to school every day. Well, your job as an executive, as a mid-level manager, even as an individual contributor around your team members, is to be that teacher for others. Help them understand why they are important and vital to the success of the company. Because it costs your company a lot if you have a disengaged employee. So per every 100,000 in salary, $3,400 is lost productivity. 82% of Gen Zers value that meaningful work and a sense of autonomy and flexibility, and 3 to 4 care more about sustainability than brand names. So think about this when if you're an entrepreneur and building a company, if you are an executive leader at an organization, think about what your company is doing to advance the success of these kinds of initiatives and change the narrative for your organization. So therefore, in crafting your leadership team's mission, and values statement, be mindful of how you will do so to enhance your employees' experience, to keep them aligned, determined, focused, engaged, and to retain the talent that you worked so hard and spent so much money to get and to bring on board. All right, so now we break down our goals. We're going to define our goals within 3 core umbrellas. Now, I mentioned this earlier when I was talking about the failure, the lack of success due to these overwhelming goals that we create at the beginning of the year with our New Year's resolutions. That's exactly why I only work on 3 goals at one time, a personal, a professional, and what I call a play or fun goal. Now, the bonus is that we're going to pick one that's called a do the dang goal, and we're going to label that the one thing that we're going to get done within the year timeframe, come hell or high water. There's a lot of reasons for this too. When you think about why, I'm going to give you an opportunity to pause if you want, or as I am speaking, start taking time to break down maybe your personal goal, your professional goal, and your play or fun goal. And so your personal goal really is focused on you. What's going to make you a better version of you? What are the things that you need to do to enhance who you are and what it is that you are wanting to bring to your life? Professionally, it's the same thing. What professional aspects do you want to develop? Do you want to grow in? Do you want to achieve or accomplish in order to make you a better version of you? Not for anyone else other than you. What are some of the conversations you might need to have with a particular, employee or with a leader, a mentor? And then your play, fun goal, these are all the things that excite us, right? These are the trips that we want to take. These are the languages we want to learn. These are the hobbies we want to pick up. But be consistent and map out and outline a plan of making those things happen. The reason I choose only 3 is because when you think about in science and media and design, the reason that 3 is such an important number is because our brain metabolizes things in 3s much better than it does at any other rate. You start adding 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It overwhelms us, and it overwhelms us into an action. This is why those laundry lists of to-do lists are massively ineffective, and it actually can stall us into an action instead of propel us forward into action. So building positive habits. These are just some examples of the positive habits that we might need to cultivate and build in order to see success with each individual goal that we are working to achieve. So I've listed some here, but honestly, you can develop your own based on the particular goal that you're working to achieve. Just keep in mind, in James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, one of the empowering, impactful things that he says is we are only as strong as the habits that our goals are only as strong as the habits that we form around them to make them happen. So if we have a goal, another reason why 92% of those people fail at their New Year's resolutions is because we have these big goals, but we're not creating stackable or manageable goals. We're not creating milestones or guideposts for ourselves in order to achieve it. All right, so my Post-it note method as we round out this presentation, because part of this was how a Post-it note can change your life, because I firmly believe that a Post-it note can absolutely change your life. And this was something that I put into practice pretty consistently as I was growing up. One Post-it note a day keeps my goals in play. I truly, firmly believe this because I have lived it, I have practiced it, I have done it. And it leads to a Friday 5. So as I mentioned, 3 things that typically will happen or when we focus on only 3 goals, we have 3 things to focus on, and it builds to a greater outcome. What the Post-it note method does is actually says, hey, I'm going to take one Post-it note a day. So 5 a week, Monday through Friday. I do give my goals the weekend off. One Post-it note a day, and you write down one task or one manageable task that is going to lead to the bigger, overwhelming picture of how I can make this happen. You write that down. And sometimes that is just getting the laundry done so that I can focus on the goal that I'm working to achieve. So it's one manageable task that you can get done. If you have an application that you need to complete one section of that application for that day. Don't task yourself with the entire thing, knowing that it's going to take you way longer to accomplish it. We're doing a couple of things. We're creating new neural networks and pathways in our brain to tell us, like, we've got this, we can do this. I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone into the uncomfortable, but I'm breaking this goal down into 5 manageable steps that I know that at the end of the week, it's going to allow me to get there. So at the end of the week, you do what's called a Friday 5. You gather your 5 Post-it notes from your week and you use them to reflect on your successes, the wins and the triumphs from that week. What this does, this small act of self-care towards your goals pays massive dividends, because what you're now doing is you're creating your own action. You're creating your own momentum. You're giving yourself the motivational bump and high five that it is that you need. This is something that all throughout, when I started building out my goals, this was one thing that I was very focused and determined on making sure that I did every single day, every single week. And it is why I developed a journal for myself called the Friday 5. I take a quote, I reflect on that as well, and I tie it to the things that I have been working on achieving. It is massively imperative, and it is something that I really feel is crucial and beneficial. It's another key component of how we take those positive habits we're working to form and put them into action and cement them. Going back to that neuroscience moment, right? We're encoding them. All right. So the last few pieces of this is how are some guiding questions to help in your planning, because you do need to be consistently revisiting your goals. Like we said, only 1% of people work on them actively daily. So this is the piece of that we've got to be doing every single day in order to get there. What is the biggest goal you want to achieve? I focus on this a lot. This is where that bonus comes in from a few slides before, the do the dang goal. What does that do the dang goal? That no matter what, you're going to make it happen. You're going to focus on that, whether that's personally, professionally, or you're going to finally take that trip that you keep telling your family we're going to do. You're actually going to make that happen. Set a path to achieving that. Figure out what the milestones are. Maybe you have to create a few sub goals, some shorter term goals, or even some longer term goals in order to get there. I've never ran a marathon. I've run a lot of half marathons, but I've never ran a marathon. Just because I ran a marathon 10 years or a half marathon 10 years ago doesn't mean that I am ready today to run a full marathon. I've never been to several countries that I want to go to. So I'm going to have to plan. I'm going to have to understand what I want to do when I get there. I'm going to have to find a time of the year. I'm going to have to plan for who all is coming on this trip with me, etc. So take the time to understand just the questions that you might feel are unnecessary or frivolous or just not important. They actually are. They're crucial and vital to the overall success of you being able to accomplish that goal, so that you don't feel frazzled when you're on that trip and wondering or thinking to yourself, man, I wish I would have done that in preparation before, because now that I'm here, I forgot to book the ticket to go to the museum or to see the exhibit or to get on that ferry to take me around the island, etc. And then go through these questions. The last one I also focus on, you can read for yourself the rest of the questions, but I really focus on the first and the last. And the last one is, how will you celebrate your achievement? This is another aspect, and this is a key component of why the Post-it note method and the Friday 5, when used in conjunction, are incredibly impactful, because you're celebrating your small wins. You are telling yourself at the end of each week, I made it another week and I did these 5 things. Freaking awesome. Like, I'm crushing it. And think about that from a team mentality. Think about if we did that as leaders, as entrepreneurs, if we were cataloging the little tiny steps that we're taking every single day. We don't do this enough. It's why we give up. It's why we tell ourselves that we're not making traction. We're not gaining traction. We're not making any progress at all, because we're not actually taking stock in that. Just like we would do self-care to get a massage or take a bubble bath or do all of the things that we need to light the candle, we have to start doing these kinds of practices as well. These are just as important. When it comes to the visualization piece as well, if we can't see it, it's really hard for us to believe it when it comes to some of these goals that we haven't achieved yet, especially if we have a goal that no one else has achieved that we can't emulate and we're literally charting our own course. That is another vital, important piece of this too. So how will you celebrate your achievements? Think about that. Who will be your accountability partner? Take some time to think about these things, because we know that when we do this, we are 76% more likely to accomplish our goals. I believe if we add in the Post-it note method and the Friday 5, we're going to be about 90% of the way. So finding your why by going through this process of executive vision imagery, it challenges us to assess who we are to our core. Who do we want to become, and who we are already becoming? I ask participants in my workshops 3 questions. I say, if you've never done a vision board, so if you are headed into this process and you don't know what the heck you're doing, ask yourself 3 things. What is it that I want? Simply, what do I want? As a leader, maybe as a father, as a mother, as a friend, what do I want? Everything from the salad that we're going to order today, all the way to the workout that we are going to do, or maybe the trip that we might start planning. What do I want? The second thing is, who am I working to become? And the third is, what is it that I want to create? So those 3 things. What is it that I want? Who do I want to become? Not what do I want to become, but who. And the third thing is, what do I want to create? And then follow me. If you have any additional questions, if you want to reach out to me, you can scan the QR code. I am on all of the socials. I am on all the places. You can use if you create your vision board, please tag me in it. If you do this with your team, or if you would like me to come and do this with your team, I would love to be that resource and that asset for you, as I do feel that this is a vital aspect of building team cohesion, retaining employees and engaging them as well. And then I also have a podcast. So if you know of anyone who would be a phenomenal guest, who could tell their story, who has created the vision for their life that they're living, whether they're in your organization or they're an individual that you know in your community, I would love to speak with them and have them tell their story of how they've been creating the vision for their life. And lastly, this is a fun, creative process. At the end of the day, in corporate, we could become very stale and sterile. In entrepreneurship, we can become very close-minded about some of our ideas that we want. This is an opportunity for us to tap into our creative resources, for us to think outside of the box, to think differently, and to challenge ourselves, to step into our most authentic version of who it is we want to become, to create the vision for the future and the life that we want to live. I thank you for this opportunity to share at your summit. And I hope that this content was meaningful and valuable as you begin to set the tone for the vision for your life.